I recently watched through the newish Godzilla movies. I mean, there's been so many Godzilla movies over the years, ever since the first Japanese original film, and constantly they've been brought over here to the United States of America. Whether it was the first one where Perry Mason is in it for some reason, because they didn't think that, and rightly so probably, that Americans would watch it without some English-speaking American actor in it. It didn't improve the film. Then they brought the 98 version. A lot of people hate that. And now they have these new versions, starting in 2014 with Godzilla, starring Bryan Cranston and Scarlet Witch and Ken Watanabe. And it was actually a decent film. I hadn't seen it. I watched it, and I was actually fairly, I don't know, I would say impressed, but I liked it. But the thing is, what I noticed about the film was that it was just a big movie about a giant monster fighting another giant monster. Or two giant monsters in the case of this movie. And that's about it. There was some melodrama behind it. Some emotional moments, or at least what tried to be emotional moments. But most of those fell kind of flat. Then I watched Kong Skull Island.
The island.
Remake of King Kong of sorts. Really just it sounds such a remake rather than this is a Kong, and they're going to an island for a reason, and then a story happens. It's not so much a remake of King Kong, but that's okay. I don't think we need another remake of King Kong. And this movie was interesting. Set during the 1970s, in time of Vietnam War. This movie had to let you know that it was that era of time with a 60s or 70s rock song every few minutes. I don't know how many were in it. I mean, I'm going to look it up right now. So look up the Kong Skull Island soundtrack. Music, here we go. There were 11 songs from that era. Regarding the music used in the film, the director stated, "I wanted to use songs from the Vietnam era and a myriad of hits from the 70s. This provides a striking dichotomy, sets the tone, and gives us great moments of fun." Because no one's ever put a rock song in a Vietnam movie before.
You keep saying you got something for me.
M-I-C-K-E-Y-M-O-U-S-E. Who's the leader of the club that's made for you and me? M-I-C-K-E-Y-M-O-U-S-E.
I wonder if this is not so much like really making something unique and special, but rather if it was more, we got to let people know, the idiots, we got to tell them that this is set in the 70s, and they won't know unless there's a rock song every few minutes. What if they forget that it's set in the 70s? Maybe he just wanted it to be special and unique. Well, then why did you pick rock songs? I mean, that's been done before, done to death, hasn't it? I mean, it's kind of like a stereotype. It's like a trope of Vietnam movies. Anyways, but upon watching Kong Skull Island, I noticed a few things. Mainly that I liked it better than the Godzilla one. And why? Because I can actually see the monster fights. In the first one, there's a lot of big monster fights taking place in the dark, dimly lit scenes, and what's happening, a lot of quick movements and shaky cameras, and they're fighting in the background as you see this human character you don't care about running away. And Kong Skull Island did a lot better job of making you actually have somewhat of affinity for the human characters, even the ones that were not supposed to be heroic. And that comes down to casting. Bryan Cranston he may be a well-liked actor because he's a good actor, but his roles haven't been really endearing. I mean, Malcolm's dad was kind of a buffoon and an idiot, and Walter White, not really an endearing character as much as he's a lying, manipulative producer of meth. But in Kong Skull Island, you have some likable characters. You have Loki, Captain Marvel, John Goodman.
I mean, say what you want about the tenets of National Socialism, dude. At least it's an ethos.
Yeah. Samuel L. Jackson. Pillboy. You have the other guy from all those Michael Schur projects. And it makes you wonder, why don't they make monster movies set in the daylight? They did it in Kong Skull Island and it worked to great effect. Because then Godzilla King of the Monsters, I watched that. And again, dark, dim, can't see what's going on. And I realized a couple of things as I watched these, that the human drama of these films was inconsequential to the enjoyment. I honestly didn't care what happened to 11. I cared more about what happened to the guy from Early Edition.
What would you do if you got tomorrow's news today?
And I wondered why he didn't just use tomorrow's newspaper today to know that Godzilla was going to attack in San Francisco that day, and maybe to get his family out of there so that his son didn't die. But maybe the newspaper didn't come that day or something. The cat didn't bring it, magical cat or whatever. Now, all that being said, overall, the 3 movies were entertaining, full of monster fighting, with Kong Skull Island probably being best of the 3. I think part of that comes to Kong being a sympathetic character, even from the beginning of his creation, having some sympathy. And Godzilla, I guess, too, but they just sort of made Godzilla this big giant hero that was saving the day from these monsters, and it never really felt like there was any true danger that the characters were in, even though these people died, or his son died in the first movie time period when he attacked San Francisco. But Godzilla was like not the enemy. He just always started out as a hero, I guess. And so then you're left with these 2 sympathetic characters. They're like, oh, he accidentally killed your son. But Godzilla is more like a force of nature in the original Godzilla film. And I guess he sort of becomes a protector of the Earth later when he's fighting Rodan and Gamera. I don't know if he fights Gamera. Ghidorah and Mechagodzilla and all these things. I guess he's sort of a protector of the universe or something, a guardian of the galaxy, so to speak. And yet, he never felt like that force of nature. Even though he's destroying buildings, the way that the stories are told, the movies are shown, I never really felt a sense of scale or scope in terms of the fights. They weren't really filmed in such a way that you kind of got an idea of how big the characters were. You just kind of assumed they were giant as they were sort of crashing into buildings, but I guess the way it was lit or shot or something, I didn't really get an idea of how massive they were, how ginormous these creatures were. And I also didn't feel one way or the other towards Godzilla. It's like, yeah, he's cool because he can shoot this blue flame out of his mouth and kill things, saving the day. But when it came time to watch Godzilla vs. Kong, I wanted to watch it. I wanted to see it, but at the same time, what are they going to do? I mean, it's not like Godzilla's been rampaging, right? How are they going to make him and Kong fight and make us not root for one or the other? Well, really, they just made the movie about King Kong. Just about King Kong, and Godzilla's sort of just the background character. It's not really about him, necessarily, mostly about Kong. And they just made Godzilla be like, oh, he's mad at them. He's mad at these people because they're doing something. You don't know what. So he attacks these laboratories run by this company, this nefarious company, and you don't really know why, but you know he's probably justified at some point. And then the story just follows Kong and the people around him. And I think that works. It was probably the better option. But what was really great about this one, because certainly the melodrama and the human stories were probably, I want to say, the worst. They were the least. Maybe I was just giant Godzilla monstered out at that point after having watched these 3 other films in the span of a week or so, that I was just bored with it. But it took my wife and I a few minutes into the film to actually get behind it. We were kind of like, all right, can we get to some more monster fighting action? So that part was, the whole melodrama part was probably the weakest. Maybe that was just fatigue, I grant you. But then the fights, I started to notice something. This film was so much brighter than the other Godzilla films. It was much more like Kong Skull Island. I could actually see Godzilla and him fighting Kong. They had these fights where you got to see the scale and how large they were, and the amount of destruction, because it wasn't just some dimly lit night scene, but actually a scene that was during the day. And you have Kong jumping around on ships, showing off his size and scale, because we know how large these ships are. We can see him in relation to people throughout the film. We can sort of get an idea of just how huge this creature is that some the other films didn't do as good a job of presenting, I felt. And overall, Kong Skull Island, Godzilla vs. Kong was pretty good. It was pretty good. By the end, I was roused. I was like, yeah, beat that giant robot Godzilla. Beat that mecha Godzilla. Beat him up. Come on, hit him with that axe you found in the Hollow Earth. Neil Adams would be proud. The Hollow Earth is real. Hashtag Neil Adams. Hashtag Hollow Earth. Hashtag real. Hashtag follow the science. Hashtag believe all science. And I was pretty excited. And then Kong and Godzilla are friends at the end. Heck yeah, man. Friends. We should all be friends. We should all be friendly to one another. If Kong and Godzilla can settle their differences and say there could be two alphas, then can't we all just get along? Can't we all just get along? So overall, I would say these movies were decent. These are the type of, if I was going to go out and buy Godzilla movies, I'm not going to get the original one. I've seen it. It's a little too, I like boring things. Don't get me wrong. I like boring things, but it might be a little too boring. Oh, he doesn't like the original Godzilla. He'd rather watch the 98 version with Matthew Broderick and Leon the Professional. But if I was going to buy Godzilla films or King Kong movies, it would probably be them. They recognized, or at least the movies come off. Maybe they were trying to make high art, but the movies come off as just giant monsters fighting with a little bit of melodrama thrown in. And what more do you want from a film like this? Are you expecting the next Godzilla film to be Citizen Kane? It's like, this is going to be the greatest film ever. It's going to be celebrated for centuries because of its high quality acting and story that really has this depth of meaning that goes beyond anything you could possibly imagine. In a world where Godzilla makes Citizen Kane look like Smoking Aces. Smoking Aces is terrible. It's one of the worst films I've ever seen. I don't know if it's the worst film I've ever seen, but it is really, really bad. And some people like that film. And if someone likes that film, and you're them, first of all, repent. But if you know somebody that likes that film, you probably shouldn't be friends with them. I'm just saying. They're probably not a good person if they like Smoking Aces. So I've kind of told my overall thoughts that they're decent popcorn flicks. Turn your brain off, be amused for a few minutes. And that's okay. And it's kind of welcome because I'm marveled out. I'm done with Marvel. I'm kind of, all right, I get the point. But these films, I haven't seen, they come out every couple of years and they're not constantly shoved down your throat as some sort of, oh, this is the newest film you gotta see or else you're not cool. And it just so happened that I had HBO Max at the time when Godzilla vs. Kong was on there because of the Snyder cut. Well done, HBO Max. I mean, I still canceled you and you're still going to run out at the end of the month and I'm not going to watch you anymore. But yeah, solid job. You made an entertaining film. A film that kept my interest, and then you made another one, and a third, and then a fourth. You should do more of that, and less of stupidity. I guess that's all I have to say, except for Kong Skull Island.
The island.
And if I was going to rank these films in terms of which ones I thought were the best, I would have a hard time doing it. Probably the first Godzilla movie, probably at the bottom, and then King of the Monsters, and then Skull Island.
The island.
Or Godzilla vs. Kong are tied for second place, and there's no first place trophy for these films. Yeah. There, I've ranked them. Kong Skull Island.
The island.
Explosion! Fly Fox!